has held a video call with leaders, including British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, in order to talk about the two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. Now, this video call comes ahead of a meeting of world leaders on the 22nd of September on the sidelines of the high-level United Nations General Assembly, where Britain, France, Canada, Australia and Belgium are expected to formally recognize a Palestinian state. The UNGA on Friday, remember, had overwhelmingly voted to endorse a declaration outlining tangible, time-bound and irreversible steps towards a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. Macron held another video conference with the leaders where discussions about the response to the Israeli strikes which hit the capital of Qatar were in fact discussed. We do know that France and Saudi Arabia will co-chair this meeting that will take place in New York on the 22nd of September. On that note, viewers, more developments coming in. We're now learning that US President Donald Trump has stated that the American military has struck a second Venezuelan vessel suspected of drug trafficking, killing 3 men in international waters. He has claimed that the boat was heading to the United States but offered no evidence. Trump warned of similar such operations which could also target cartels moving by land. Listen in.
Now, what does that mean? That means there's no drugs coming by sea, but they do come by land. And you know what? We're telling the cartels right now, we're going to be stopping them too. When they come by land, we're going to be stopping them the same way we stop the boats.
The announcement has come hours after Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro accused Washington of aggression, stating that communication between the two governments have completely broken down. Take a look.
Y así lo van a seguir buscando. En Panamá no es una tensión, es una agresión en toda la línea, es una agresión judicial cuando nos criminalizan, es una agresión política con sus declaraciones amenazantes diarias, es una agresión diplomática y es una agresión en camino de carácter militar. Y Venezuela está facultada por las leyes internacionales para hacerle frente integralmente a esta agresión. No es una tensión, es una agresión.
Maduro rejected the claims being peddled by the United States of America. He has stated that those claims and those the U.S. had claimed that those killed were part of the Tren de Aragua gang, insisting that Venezuela has mobilized troops against narco trafficking. He has also lashed out at U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, calling him the Lord of Death and War. Meanwhile, this latest escalation highlights growing tensions as the Trump administration is bolstering its military presence in the Caribbean. We do know that they recently deployed F-35 fighters, warships and a nuclear-powered submarine in the region as well. With us on the broadcast is Ms. Shruti Dasgupta, International Affairs expert, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you, ma'am, for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. It seems that the situation between Venezuela and the United States of America, the tensions that have been simmering, they're continuing to escalate. This is the second such attack on a Venezuelan vessel in recent times. We've seen increased militarization as well in the Caribbean, and it's interesting because there was a UN report that had come out a while back highlighting that narco trafficking, drug trafficking usually takes place through the Pacific. A bulk of that takes place through the Pacific and not the Atlantic. So what is the objective of the United States in bolstering its presence in the Atlantic near Venezuela's coast?
Greetings, Pia. Thank you so much for inviting me. You've hit the nail on the head with your question that the UN report clearly states that Venezuela, only if it facilitates, would be a small drop in compared to the mass of drugs being transshipped everywhere. The major nations responsible for such a crime are Colombia, Peru, and I believe Bolivia. But Venezuela may be facilitating transportation, but only about 270 tons compared to more than 30,000 tons that are actually transshipped. 3,000 tons that are actually transshipped throughout the world. So Trump's actions in the name of drugs on Venezuela seems to be a front. Again, the Pacific route is the route which the UN drug and control crime branch has pointed out. So why the presence in the Atlantic Ocean, and why specifically against Venezuela? For me, the answer lies in the fact that Venezuela is the largest known oil reserves, which surpasses even Saudi Arabia. And despite the Trump administration coming to an agreement with the Maduro administration of resupplying the Venezuelan oil into the market via Chevron, it seems that what they've got is something, an eye on a bigger deal. They want something more out of Venezuela. They probably want control as much as they can of those particular resources. And this is a way of intimidating Venezuela. Does US have a drug problem? Yes. Does all of it come through Venezuela? No. Does it go through land? Yes. Which are the nations responsible for it? Canada and Mexico are primary borders where these kind of activities percolate through borders. So are they acting against Canada and Mexico on drugs? No. On other issues, yes, but not drugs. And specifically, if these nations sign unequal trade deals or agree to unequal tariffs, the US administration is very happy to work with them, allowing the drugs to flow through along with the trade. So basically, drugs is just a smokescreen to kind of influence Venezuela, who is having its own democratic problems. We all know the democracy in Venezuela is not as it should be. So this is a pressure tactic, probably a regime change, probably a minor escalation of sorts to justify Trump's action in trying to control the largest oil reserves of the world.
And ma'am, in your assessment, where do you think this will head next?
Well, we've already mentioned a large amount of deployment happening in the sea. So unless they actually want to physically intimidate Venezuela with all their mass weapons, etc., I don't see any other reason to do so. This is not about pirates. This is not about drugs. This is about intimidation. This is a show of power, flexing of muscles. And this is very, very aptly done by the Trump administration in the Atlantic Sea against Venezuela and any other nation in that region that is probably planning to go against what the Trump regime wants. So for that matter, we can look at Brazil per se, who is not completely in consonance with what Trump regime wants it to say. So when you have this kind of posturing, it doesn't just intimidate one person, but the entire continent. So this is power through the barrel of the gun, or at least in this case, through its naval show of power. And for this, I will see an escalation, probably in terms of direct attack towards ground forces in towards the Southern American nations, stating the name of drugs. So I see an escalation rather than de-escalation in the coming future.
All right, ma'am. With that, I would like to thank you for taking out time to speak.